He had built walls his whole life. Privacy, security, carefully curated distance. Julian Warner believed money solved problems. He had a suited staff, armored cars, and a habit of solving everything with people who owed him favors. Yet none of that mattered when his son, Noah, came home from school trembling after a new kind of wound, humiliation. Noah was 11. A wobble in one leg and a cane made him slower on the playground and a target for cruelty. He liked drawing superheroes and naming planets, liked whispering about secret plans to his dad. Julian watched him with a fierce, fragile love. When Noah told him about the hot day by the basketball court, the words were small and straight. Some kids had shoved him, they had laughed and filmed it. On a warm Saturday, Julian decided to see for himself. He took off his watch and walked with Noah through the neighborhood where the children played loud and free. They sat on a bench and ate soft-serve ice cream, trying to be ordinary. When they approached the court, a cluster of adolescents were gathered, skateboards and bravado in hand. Noah's face tightened. He kept his cane close. A ball rolled their way. One boy kicked it back and then pretended not to notice when Noah tried to pick it up. One of them mimed Noah's limp. A cheer rose like static. Julian stepped forward. He could have called security, filed a complaint, taken Noah home and put him somewhere safe. Everything inside him wanted to protect his son from exposure. Instead, he did something neither his board of directors nor his PR team expected. He stayed and spoke. "Leave him alone," Julian said, calm but carrying the authority of a man used to being listened to. The response was laughter, then push. In a heartbeat, the scene shifted into a shove that sent Noah to the ground, cane clattering away. Julian felt a hot, hollow surge, anger shaped like ice. He was a man who solved problems, and nothing in his training told him the right answer for a group of kids who thought being cruel made them bigger. The first fight he anticipated would be a physical eruption. Instead, it became a different kind of trial. He pulled out his phone and started to film. People do strange things when their actions might be seen later, he thought, and maybe a public recording would dampen the cruelty. He filmed the faces, the laughter, the smirk of the boy who had pushed Noah. Then he made an offer that stunned even himself. He stepped forward with a handful of bills, enough to register, but not the kind of money that could buy loyalty. "I'll give you $500 each if you promise to stop picking on kids who are different," he said into his phone and to the group. "No tricks, no filming, no threats. If you break the promise, return the money and apologize." A hush fell, broken by scoffs. The leader, Malik, picked at his lip, eyes running fast like a gambler checking odds. The idea of money turned their sneers into calculation. Some took the cash at once, pockets closing like small vaults. Others hesitated and then walked off, the promise left dangling like a thread. Noah cried quietly that night, but he also watched his father with a new, complicated respect. "What was that?" he asked. Julian couldn't fully explain. He had wanted to do more than file a report. He had wanted to change behavior directly, quickly, imperfectly. The video went online and the reaction was immediate. Some called Julian a showman, a man buying decency. Others praised him for confronting bullying with action instead of paperwork. The criticism cut, but it did not stop him. A school guidance counselor contacted him 2 days later and offered a different idea: create a program where kids could channel their energy. Woodshop, sports, mentorship, instead of lashing out. Julian listened. He toured a small community center that smelled of paint and old floor wax. The walls were decorated with taped-up flyers for karate and coding, and an exhausted but dedicated staff explained their needs. Tools, supplies, a coordinator to keep programs running. Julian signed checks. He insisted the center hire people from the neighborhood and that the programs offer real stipends for attendance. Money, he realized, could open a door but not teach a person how to be kind. Malik did not show up for the first meeting. He was too busy or too proud or too skeptical. Weeks passed. Then one rainy evening, Malik appeared at the center with paint on his hoodie and a chip on his shoulder. He had spent his cash mostly on fast food and a cheap skateboard. He'd also enrolled in a woodworking class because the counselor required him to come back and try something useful before he could receive additional help. At first, Malik mocked the tools and the teacher. He sneered at the safety goggles and kicked a workbench. But when told to cut a small plank and assemble it into a birdhouse, he found, to his own discomfort, that precise, non-performative labor calmed something in him. The birdhouse wasn't pretty at first. The nails were crooked, the paint thick. He worked on it again. The teacher praised a bent piece of wood that now fit. Malik's face changed a fraction. Later, he gave the birdhouse to his little sister. Her surprised grin was small, but it landed like a stone skipped across water. Months passed and the center's programs held. Some kids fell away, Some families found other things to spend time and attention on. But a core returned. The boy who filmed the original incident learned boxing and, through discipline, learned to channel aggression into practice rather than cruelty. The girl who laughed the loudest discovered a love for baking and started a weekend table where kids exchanged cookies for homework help. One afternoon, Julian took Noah back to the park. They walked to the court and sat on the bench. Malik and two boys Julian recognized approached, slower, careful. Malik cleared his throat and looked at Noah. He carried a rolled-up piece of paper. "I wanted to say sorry," Malik said, then fumbled. He handed Noah the paper. Inside was a simple drawing. Noah with a cape, drawn by Malik's shaky hand. "I didn't know better," he said. "I'm sorry." Noah's eyes widened. He looked at his father. Julian felt an old, bristling satisfaction that was different from triumph. A warmth tempered by the knowledge that change had roots. Noah offered Malik a shaky smile and waved his cane in a friendly, unthreatening way. The moment was small but true. The story did not end cleanly. There were setbacks. A late-night fight downtown involved some boys who had fallen back into old patterns, and Julian's money alone couldn't untangle every thread. But the community center had created alternatives. Coaches, mentors, a place with structure. Over time, the incidents of cruelty decreased in the neighborhoods tied to the program. The kids who stayed learned skills and, more importantly, learned to be seen for more than their worst moments. Julian learned something he had not expected. That power and privilege can be used clumsily but with intention. He continued to fund programs, to sit in meetings with teachers he would never have met before, and to listen when people told him what actually worked. He learned to let his son lead small parts of the outreach. Noah would bring his drawings to the center and read them to younger kids, and his calm, brave presence made a bigger difference than any speech. Over the next months, Julian learned to trust people who knew the neighborhood. He hired a program director who insisted on listening to kids before making plans. They opened evening classes, woodwork, boxing, art, and paid modest stipends so teens had reason to show up besides curiosity. The change was slow. Malik flinched at rules at first, then began to return to the center, showing up after school to sand a plank or attend a circle where someone asked how anger felt in the chest. There were setbacks. Some promises were broken and a few boys reverted to old, loud habits. Yet small signs kept appearing. A mother sent an email simply saying, "My son stopped hiding his cane." A teenager who had filmed the original incident started helping younger kids in the boxing ring, channeling strength into coaching rather than mocking. Noah began volunteering on weekends, bringing his drawings to the center and reading them aloud to children who clung to the stories. Years later, at a block party, Noah ran a drawing booth. Malik arrived with his sister, paint on his hands, and offered to help set up a mural booth. Watching them work together, Julian felt the odd, stubborn satisfaction of watching a garden grow. Messy, imperfect, but undeniably alive. If asked whether he would repeat the park scene, Julian would say it was clumsy and brave in equal measure. The money had opened a door. The people and programs had walked through it and stayed. That, more than any headline, was the change he wanted for his son and for a neighborhood that needed chances. In quiet moments, Julian would look at Noah's sketches of parks and superheroes and realize that the bravest acts are sometimes choosing to show up for someone else. The fight had not ended in one event. It had begun a long and patient work that neither wealth nor goodwill could finish alone. It needed time, people, and the simple, stubborn decision to keep trying.